to make it in and for our live stream to start. All right, and looks like our live stream is working. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to an open meeting of the Governor's Pardon Advisory Board. I'm Mel Barnes, Chief Counsel to Governor Evers. The purpose of today's meeting is to hear from applicants applying for a grant of pardon from the governor. I'm going to start with just a few housekeeping things, and then we will move into hearing from the board and applicants in an open meeting. Later today, as noticed, we will go into a closed meeting to discuss some of the applications. So for housekeeping purposes, you should all know that this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube as well as on Wisconsin Eye, which is our state's equivalent of a C-SPAN. And we have a couple of different sessions on the agenda. Until I state your name to let you know that you're up, you can keep yourself muted and your video turned off, and that will allow us to focus our attention on the person presenting their application. I'll ask board members to keep their video on the whole time. And once I let an applicant know that it is your time on the floor with us, you can turn your camera on and unmute. We'll hear from you. We'll ask you any questions that we have. We may or may not have questions for you. Everything might have been covered in your statement today and the application materials that you sent us. Please don't read into it one way or another. If we have questions, we're just trying to get the information that we need. And once you're done speaking with the board, you don't have to stay on the Zoom. You can drop off and go about your day, and the board will discuss your application later when we go into closed session. If you get a majority of board votes in favor of a pardon, your application will be forwarded to the governor. If not, your application will be denied, and we'll let you know that you're eligible to apply again 18 months after that denial. You should hear from us either way in about a month or two. If the governor does grant your pardon, you'll get that in the mail. If your application is denied, you'll get a letter describing that in the mail, again, along with that notice that you can apply again in 18 months. We know that this has been a long process, and we appreciate your patience as we work hard to get it right. So I'll start by introducing my fellow board members here who are with us today, have reviewed your application and those materials in advance, and will be asking questions in addition to listening to the statement and things that you present today. So let's see, I'm going to go in the order that folks appear in my screen, which may or may not be the same for all of you. So starting with retired Judge Jeff Kremers. He served as a Milwaukee County Circuit Judge and retired in 2018. We're grateful for his time with us on the Pardon Board today. Next up, we have Cindy O'Donnell, who served as Deputy Secretary of Corrections under several governors and a division administrator in the Department of Justice. Nadia Perez-Reyes is the Assistant Secretary for the Department of Children and Families, and she also previously worked as a public defender and an attorney for Legal Action of Wisconsin. Noble Ray is a former Madison Police Chief who served for almost 28 years, including as Chief of Police, and led the U.S. Justice Department's Policing Practices and Accountability Initiative. Myrna Washington is the Director of Vocational Rehabilitation Services on the Menominee Indian Reservation. She is an Army vet and a member of tribe leadership.
Warrington,
I'm so sorry. We also have with us today board member Anthony Cooper. He is the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships and Reentry Services for Nemaya Center for Urban Leadership Development. He is also a past pardon recipient. And we have also joining us on the board today, Reverend John McVicker Sr., who is the founding pastor of Christ the King Baptist Church in Milwaukee and serves as the board chairman for King's Academy Christian School. And let's see, did I miss anybody? Great. Thank you again to board members for taking the time to be with us today and hear from our pardon applicants. So we're going to hear from applicants on the order listed in the agenda that we shared previously. If you are having any sort of tech issues, hearing us or us hearing you, we have staff in my office that will reach out to you and just get those issues sorted out. And if we need to move on to the next applicant and come back to you, we'll certainly do that. Because it is an open, publicly noticed meeting, however, we will only work through applicants in the time slot as the meeting was noticed. So that might mean that we have some breaks or some downtime in between, because we won't start before those set times for groups of applicants. All right, so with that, we'll start with our first applicant, Yvette Hernandez. If you're able to unmute yourself, I already see you on camera. Welcome, Ms. Hernandez. And I'm going to start by asking you to tell us a little bit about the crime that you were convicted of, why you're seeking a pardon, tell us about serving your sentence, what you have done since, and anything else that you think that we should need to know as we consider your application.
All right, well, good morning. The charges that I had were drug charges. During that time, I was sentenced to prison. I committed the charges. I sold drugs, and I was sentenced in 1998. I did my time. I did AODA group while I was incarcerated. I also got my HSAD. I was released in 2002. The only charge I got after that was driving without a license. I got my license right after that. That was the first time I ever had a driver's permit. During my sentence, I got my HSAD while I was incarcerated. Did some odd and jobs when I got released, difficult jobs. I decided that while I was incarcerated, I was the first person in my family to actually graduate, to actually get my college degrees. I chose to go to school. School ended up being my career for a little bit, got me out of the trouble, or kept me out of trouble, I could say. I got my associate's degree. I got my bachelor's degree. I also got my master's, all in human services, my master's in forensic psychology. I wanted to go back and help those that are locked up in prison and whatnot, kind of give back. I've been working for Hebron House right now for about 10 years. I just received my plaque for 10 years of service with Hebron House. And what Hebron House is a homeless shelter. I started off as an advocate, working on a weekend, working 12-hour shifts, going to school. And once I graduated, I became the case manager for the last, I would say, 9 years, helping those who are in need, helping them stabilize, helping them with their mental health, AODA, anything that I can help them with. I also work with the community, community partner with La Casa. I work with the police on a weekly basis now in my career now, because now I became the program manager for Hebron Housing Services. So I'm in charge of the shelters. I'm in charge of 20 people, staff. I work at the admin office, so I'm here with the ED. I'm trying to think of everything. I'm nervous, sorry. I've done a lot. I work with the community. I actually work with the PD too, we have weekly meetings about the community, how we can serve the community, the issues that are happening with, people committing crimes or, I have to reach out to the police and work with the police when I have individuals who are, causing issues in our shelters, using drugs, bringing in weapons, anything like that. So I work side by side with the police, and they help me out a lot to try to de-escalate situations that occur in my shelter. And yeah, I don't know what else you asked, sorry.
That was very helpful, thank you. Could you tell us a little bit about your reasons for seeking a pardon and what doors it would open up for you if you were pardoned?
Just like I've done a lot, since the 20 years that I've been incarcerated, whatnot, and I feel like this is not my end, and I feel like I can do more. And in order to get licenses and, start my own business, anything like that, I would need, a pardon, and it would benefit me. I'm not done helping. So I want to do more. And I believe this, my record, whatever, prevents me from doing, stuff like that and moving forward.
Thank you. Board members, questions? Cindy?
Good morning. In your application, you mentioned that you might be interested in working for the Department of Corrections. I'm curious, what kind of work would you see doing there?
I know that, my record totally isn't going to let me allow me to work in corrections, but just going into the jails, working with jail ministries, helping people, while they're incarcerated, knowing that this is not the end, this is, just a setback. You can learn from your mistakes and whatnot, just being that voice and being able to do stuff like that.
Actually, if you were to receive a pardon, you could work for the department. So.
Oh, okay.
Just put that out there.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I wasn't sure how much, a pardon can do for me, but I've always dreamt about working in corrections and just giving back.
Yeah, we have a previous applicant who's now a probation and parole agent. So awesome. Just plant
you
that
just made
seed.
My day. You just made my day.
Well, you haven't got the pardon yet, so wait.
Yeah, but you don't want to.
Yep. She's always recruiting.
I see.
Other questions? No? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Ms. Hernandez. Like I said, you're welcome to drop off the Zoom. You don't have to stay. And we will be reaching out in the next month or two to let you know about the outcome of your application. And thank you for your time.
And thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
You too. Next up, we have Shirelle Lovett, who I believe was on the Zoom.
I'm here.
Here we are. I can see you now. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Lovett. If you could spend a couple of minutes talking to us about your conviction, your sentence, what you've done since, and why you're seeking a pardon today, and then I'll turn it over to the board for questions.
Okay. My name is Shirelle Lovett. I am 46 years old. I was convicted when I was 17. My offense was armed robbery party to a crime. My exact involvement in that crime was a getaway driver. I was with my uncle, two of my cousins, and a couple of their friends from the neighborhood. We robbed a local business on the east side of Milwaukee. I believe it was a tavern. I was sentenced to 5 years in state prison. I didn't take a trial. I just pleaded guilty to accept the responsibilities for my actions. During my prison time, I completed my high school diploma. I was initially let out of prison after 2 years, and I spent 2 years in the community. And during that time, I had a couple of misdemeanor charges stemming from disputes with my ex involving my children. And I eventually ended up being returned to prison on a probation revocation. And I ended up serving another 2 years. I was finally discharged off of my sentence in April of 2001. When I was discharged from my sentence, I went to truck driving school in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I obtained my CDL. I had two sisters that were living down in Georgia at the time. One was military, the other was married to military. And they basically encouraged me to come down to Georgia to have a fresh start, to just be around a positive environment where people were actually successful and productive and, not just living and surviving day to day. After getting to Georgia and working hard for 2 years straight, I was able to start my own trucking company. One of my sisters at the time was retired Army, and the other sister was just going into the Savannah Police Department. And through my connections from both of my sisters, I met some great individuals that accepted me with open arms and were instrumental with my success in Georgia. Over the past 2 decades in Georgia, I've helped change the lives of 10 different families by sharing my knowledge of the truck driving industry and helping them set up and start their own trucking companies. I've trained over 20 different individuals on how to drive a truck. My community involvement over the past 2 decades are as follows, but not limited to. I was a volunteer driver for Meals on Wheels, delivering lunch and dinner to seniors and disabled persons here in the metro Atlanta area. I was also a volunteer at Hosea Feed the Homeless. And we had a volunteer group down in Savannah, with my sister being on the Savannah Police Department. I ride in a motorcycle club. We got a couple different motorcycle clubs band together. We was collecting things in conjunction with the Savannah Police Department, collecting furniture, clothing items, and everything else for an outreach center for a battered women's shelter. I was a part of the prison ministry at my current church, Word of Faith Worship Cathedral here in Austell, Georgia for 2 years. And while living overseas in Germany in Wiesbaden, I was a volunteer camp counselor for at youth risk of active duty soldiers. Currently, I am a role model for all of my family back in Milwaukee. They look up to me because they know what and where I come from, and they know what I have been through to get to where I am today. I am a representation of what change looks like in the flesh. I am encouragement for my family in Milwaukee that we all can do anything that we set our minds to. My employment over the past 2 decades have all been steady and consistent within the truck driving industry. Out of my 22 years of driving experience, 10 years of that time was spent as an owner-operator. 3 years of that time was spent driving 5 different countries overseas for the U.S. Army. I've drove gasoline tankers for a few years, delivering gasoline at local gas stations in the Savannah market. I've also drove 3 years for Old Dominion Freight Lines, delivering doubles at night. I've had a couple different truck driving jobs trying to get my feel of what I really wanted to do within the industry. I've driven roll-off trucks, trash trucks, and dump trucks. I am currently an owner-operator again. My wife and I started SD Lovett Transport 1 year ago, which was February 8th of 2022. And my current lane is Georgia to Wisconsin. So I'm in Wisconsin at least every week. Growing up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the mid 80s to the early 90s, it was basically a nightmare for me. I grew up in a household where I watched defenseless as a child. My mother get beat senseless almost just about every weekend. My stepfather came back home drunk. There was no one in my entire family in Milwaukee that had education past high school, and most didn't finish high school. The family and the community that I came from, it was not positive at all. Half of my family sold drugs. The other half were fraud artists, and a good number of them were exactly what I did, an armed robber. It was no different than neighborhoods that I grew up in, all of them crime rate. 19th and Center, 24th and Center, 24th and Locust, 28th and Vine, 30th and Brown, 23rd and Walnut, Palmer and Townsend. I was a father of 5 before I was sentenced to 5 years in prison. I was also a junior in high school. When I was 17, I didn't have any outlook on what my life would be like. I figured I would be dead or in prison by 21. I had no real goals. I had no ambitions. I didn't know of anything outside of Milwaukee County. At 17, I was a juvenile delinquent and a pure menace to society. That was almost 30 years ago. Today, I'm a 46-year-old son, a father, a grandfather, a husband, cousin, friend. I am an encourager, a motivator, and a firm believer and a living testimony that God can turn anything and anyone around. I have served my time for the crime I was a part of. Since the completion of my sentence in April of 2001, I have turned my life around for the better. I have 2 college graduates, 2 current college students, 1 middle school student, and 2 elementary age students. I have custody of my 12 and 10-year-old daughter from my previous marriage. I believe that in life, we all do something or things that are displeasing in the sight of God, but just as he gives second chances, I'm here before this committee asking for my second chance. A pardon will help me tremendously in 3 ways. 1, it will allow me to become a military contractor, which as a convicted felon, I'm prohibited. My wife is a retired military veteran, and she has a freight broker business, and I'm on the trucking side of that business. And a pardon will allow us to expand our business as military contractors. 2, I currently have Canadian operating authority with my business, but because I am a convicted felon, I'm not allowed to cross the border into Canada to do business with customers looking to ship freight into the US. And lastly, a pardon will stop the prejudice. There have been several occasions to where I've had interviews or conversations with people. They love the way I carry myself. They're impressed with the way that I handle stressful situations. But the minute that they find out that I'm a convicted felon, it seemed like all that goes out the window. And I'm being judged all over again for something that I did almost 30 years ago. I want to be judged for all the accomplishments over the past 2 decades that I have done to turn my life around. I want to be judged for what my life is today. I don't want to be judged for the rest of my life for something that I did when I was a lost 17-year-old child. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lovett. Board members, questions? Judge Kremers.
Good morning, Mr. Lovett. Mr. Lovett, I want to make sure I understand the sequence. You went to prison initially, and then you got released after 2 years. Then you said you had some misdemeanors. Those, I assume, were the domestic violence battery convictions that resulted in you being revoked and sent back to prison. Do I have that right?
That's correct.
And were you only revoked the one time?
I was revoked the one time, but I end up my last 10 months that I supposed to have had spent on paper. I just told my parole agent that I'd rather just get it over with and just spend it in. So I revoked myself. I didn't have a place to live at the time. And it was a lot going on, a whole lot going on in my life at the time.
So you got revoked twice. Once
Yes.
Okay. And then my last question is, it looks like in 2019, three years ago or so, or 4 years ago, there was a order of protection placed against you in Georgia. Is that correct?
That is correct.
What can you tell me what that was about?
That was basically my ex-wife. We were going through a divorce at the time. She filed an order of protection as a way to flee the state with my children to Las Vegas without me following behind her. I answered that order. We end up having a whole divorce hearing and so forth and so on. And I end up with custody of my children after everything was said and over with.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Cindy.
Morning, Mr. Lovett. I want to go back to the crime. I know it was a long time ago and you were 17, but you knew that they were going to rob the tavern?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Yeah, you did. Okay. And was the tavern open at the time? It was filled with customers, or?
It was just right before closing. It was about like in 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning, somewhere around that time, but it was right at about closing time.
So were there still patrons in the tavern when they entered?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe there was a couple of patrons still in there.
Okay. And how long did the event last? And if you remember, you sat outside in the car? Is that?
Yeah, no more than 5 minutes.
Okay. And you shared in the proceeds from this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Well, it was really no sharing in proceeds because that same exact night we were actually arrested.
The same night. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board? All right. Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Lovett, for your time today and for speaking with us. As I mentioned, you don't have to stay on the Zoom. You're free to go enjoy the rest of your day. And we will be in touch hopefully in the next month or two to let you know the outcome of today's hearing.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mr. Christopher Court, who I believe was having some audio problems. Let's see if we've sorted those out.
I'm here.
Excellent, Mr. Court. We can hear you. Sounds like you can hear us. So please give us a little summary of the crimes that you committed, the sentence that you served, what you've done since, and why you're seeking a pardon today.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much for your time. I'm Chris Court. I'm 37 years old. I'm from Wausau, Wisconsin. That's my hometown. I'm married, 3 going on 4 years, to my wife Jessica. She's a nurse right here in town. I have 2 kids, both babies. One's only 1.5 years and one's only 5 months. So just in the last couple of years, I've had 2 kids, which has just been a lot of work and a lot of fun. I have 2 dogs. My mom's outside watching all of them right now. I'm at my house. So yeah, I'm very family oriented. Me and my dad hang out almost every day. That's kind of who I am a little bit. Sorry, I'm really nervous here, guys. Just so you know, it's like the biggest day of my life, so I'm pretty seriously nervous. But anyway, okay. So back in 2008, I was a senior at UWSP, Stevens Point, living on campus. I was charged with intent to deliver marijuana. I had roughly a half pound. It was like 440 grams or something like that. Everything about that case pretty much went okay. I did fail a day report. Like it was under 30 days after I initially got arrested. I failed, I had to go in every day to take a drug test, and I failed a day report, and I got a bail jumping charge for that, which was dropped. But that was the only stint I had since that being charged, really. I got that day report. Otherwise, I was charged with 60 days in jail and 2 years probation. So I graduated from college the very next semester, or the next year. I graduated from the SP with a Bachelor of Science with Forest Recreation. My probation officer let me move to California. I wanted to work at Yosemite. Yosemite. That was my goal. I had a couple of friends living out in the Mammoth Lakes area, so yeah, I moved out with them. And I wasn't able to get that job right away. I moved there, and there wasn't an opening, so I took a job at a golf course. That was pretty short-lived, and I ended up getting a real job. A different friend of mine who lived out in Worcester, Massachusetts, was telling me about this tree inventory job for an actual big tree company, Davy Tree. So I took that job and I ended up driving. I drove to California initially, and I drove from California all the way to Massachusetts across the entire country to take a job for Davy Tree. And that was as like a tree surveyor. I was looking for the Asian longhorn beetle. Yeah, I basically just walked up and down the streets of Worcester and surveyed trees looking for invasive species. That was also pretty short-lived. That was like a part-time. The Davy Tree took me on then as a full-time employee, as like a inventory arborist. So for a couple of years after that, after college, I was just able to travel in a company car and live in hotels and survey trees basically for like 3 years. And that was really a lot of fun. I really enjoyed life at that time. During that time, I started buying rental properties. I started buying that actually back in Stevens Point. So even though I was on the road, I would like to come home once in a while. And so I had a place that I would come back to once in a while in Point, and then the rest of the rooms were just rented out. But yeah, that continued on for years until I just kind of got sad of being on the road and I wanted to be back home and with friends more often. So I left that job and moved back home. And I was up to like 5 rental properties at that time. That's the most I ever had, was 5 rentals. But yeah, I was sitting pretty good at that. So I was able to, money-wise, do what I wanted. I took a job back in Point as a climbing arborist. And that's kind of what I do today. I have my own company today as a climbing arborist and stump grinding business. But yeah, back then, I initially took the job as an arborist just because I needed something to do and I wanted to stay busy. And that first job took me to a different job down in Sauk City. And that's where I actually had my only brush with the law in my life. I moved to Sauk City and I joined a bowling team. And one of the guys in my bowling team was on the city council. He recommended me run for city board, which I thought was a great idea. It was probably 2018. And so he gave me all the paperwork. He basically highlighted what I needed to fill out. And, I filled it all out and I had the bowling team and, sign all the paperwork, and it was pretty easy to do. Little did I know that was a felony, false swearing, which I got charged with. So it did get dropped, but yeah, I had to go to court and get that felony false swearing dropped for trying to run for city council, which was definitely a stressful time in my life. The judge was pretty kind to me. The judge said, this is a lesson for us all. Make sure we read the fine print. So yeah, I definitely made a big mistake there. And, I have read the fine print ever since, and that's also an example of like just where the felony really got me. I really wanted to be part of the city board. And like, I had a lot of friends that was pretty rough for me to deal with, having to go through that and be like, oh yeah, I can't run for city board now because I'm a felon. So that kind of ended up it is what it is. I did my community service and everything was dropped, but I guess shortly after that, within a year, me and my fiance to be decided to move back home because just a number of things. I had the rentals I was dealing with, and we were coming home every single weekend anyway to deal with the rentals or just see my family. So we felt like it was time just to move back to my hometown of Wausau, which is what we did. And that was like 3 years ago. So I guess that brings me to why I guess maybe I think I deserve a pardon. I've been thinking of this long and hard and why I deserve it. I just don't really know why I deserve it. I mean, I certainly do want it more than anybody else. It's something I've thought about like every day since it's happened. I mean, I don't want to be a felon. I feel like I'm a good person. I have a good life. I mean, I'm very happy for the most part. This is just something over my shoulders that will never go away otherwise. I am so regretful for what I did. And like I said, I think about it all the time. It would make opportunities for me to go to Canada with my family. My whole family went they went to Canada. I forgot exactly where, but I couldn't go. I was stuck here because Newfoundland, went to Labrador, Newfoundland with my grandpa, and the whole family went, and I was stuck here because I was a felon, and that's just something I didn't want to have to deal with. But my 2 kids, I don't want them to grow up knowing their dad's a felon. It's just a stigma that I don't feel like suits me anymore. It was almost 20 years ago as well. And my dad and his brothers have all spent their entire lives hunting. I would like to be able to hunt again. My dad hunts every year and I'm just not there with them. I could go on and on, just reasons I think I don't want to be a felon anymore. But as far as why I deserve it, I don't know. Just hope you guys see it and have not be on anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Court. I just have one question before I turn over the board. You mentioned that your family hunts. Have you owned or possessed a firearm since your felony, or do you ever use guns?
No, I never have. No, that's why we don't hunt anymore. I never have.
Other board members, questions? Judge Kramer?
So, are there any videotapes of you on YouTube using a gun, Mr. Court?
Prior to my conviction.
So
2007, I believe.
So the YouTube photo of you firing a gun is from before your conviction?
I guess I would have to look. Is that my cabin maybe? Yeah, I thought it was 2007. Yeah, I thought it was before I got arrested. I don't own any guns. If I had fired a gun in my cabin, I guess I can't say I didn't. My grandpa has guns up there and they fire on their land. If I did, maybe I did, but I don't know. I don't own guns. I thought that was before I got arrested, though. I'm pretty sure I can look now. I don't really know. I do remember having a video, but I thought that was a long time ago before I got arrested. 07, I believe. But yeah, that my grandpa had property. I do not own any guns or hunt or do anything. I've not bought a license to hunt ever since.
Well, it's not just you can't own a gun, you also can't possess a gun. So
yeah, I know, you're right. I don't possess a gun. Yeah, my wife's, yeah, I know. There was no gun around me. I said my grandpa, when he died, gave his guns away. I didn't get any. Like, yeah, if that was at the cabin, I was there, I guess, yeah, I don't know. I can't say it's not the case, but I don't know when that was.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the board? All right, Mr. Boyd, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today. As I mentioned, you don't have to stay on the Zoom. You can go be about your day and it sounds like hang out with your children. You'll hear from us in about a month or two, following up on the outcome of your application. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right, next up we have Lasanya Lee, who I believe I saw in our waiting room.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, are you able to turn on your video, Miss Lee?
I don't know why. I've been trying for the longest. I do not know why okay, there you go.
Ah, perfect.
Huh.
All right, we can see you now. Thank you for joining us. Would you walk us through your charges and conviction, your sentence that you served, what you've done since then, and why you're seeking a pardon today?
Oh, okay. My conviction was in 2007. I was charged for felony bail jumping. My original charges were dropped with my plea, but they are still read in. Prior to my case, I was working at 21st Street School for 5.5 years. During the thing that happened, I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. The only reason I got the felony bail jumping is because I missed a court date because it was in Marinette and I stay in Milwaukee, and I was my car had broke down, and I called and let them know that I wasn't able to make it because my car broke down, and they put a warrant out on me. So I ended up catching the bus and turning myself in. So I was there for in the county for 10 months. They gave me a plea for 18 months in and 18 months probation. When I got sentenced, I was released in 2007. I started my HSED while incarcerated. I finished it in 2009. I started my college associate's degree in 2009. I completed that in 2013. I went back for my paralegal certification in 2013. I got halfway through that. Unfortunately, I got pregnant. I didn't complete it. I started working at Wash Law Firm. I've been there for 3.5 years. I just left them. I'm currently now with Northwestern Mutual Insurance. Yeah, I have accomplished a lot during the time of me it's been 14 years. And I think that while me working with people, confidential information, and also trying to escalate where I'm at right now, even though they say the felonies does not count against you, once they see that, no matter how long it is, sometimes it is a discrimination against you. And I'm just trying to better myself and move on, start businesses, and actually escalate in administrative assistance in what I have my associate's degree in. What else? I think that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. Would you tell us a little bit more about the earlier charge that led to your conviction for bail jumping?
So I was in Marinette with a friend, or my boyfriend, and we was on vacation. I actually per se didn't know what was going on. I was supposed to be going on vacation, and we were there for a day or so, and all I know is that the house got raided and I was incarcerated for drug charges. And eventually all those got dropped, and I just got dropped with bail jumping and the charges read in.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Cindy.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, Ms. Lee. As part of the application process, it's not required, but it's encouraged that people submit letters of support for their application from family, community, employers, and you didn't submit any. Can you tell us why?
I have been moving a lot. I don't have, from that time to 2007 to now, I really don't have a lot of support. I'm really supporting myself. Like I could have got recommendations for jobs at that time, but yeah, I'm really supporting myself. I don't have a family support to say, hey, Lasanya, I'm on my own. I stand on my own. So.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Ms. Lee. As I mentioned, you don't have to stay on the Zoom. You're free to go about the rest of your day. Thank you for your time and speaking with us today. We'll follow up in about the next month or two to let you know the outcome of today's hearing, and wishing you the best with the rest of your day.
Thank you. You have a great day. Bye-bye.
Take care. All right. Next up is Vermont Phelan, who I know has been having some audio and video challenges. Mr. Phelan, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
Oh, I see. Okay, we've got you joined by phone as well. I know I saw you on video before. Are you able to turn your video on, or should we just be thankful that we're getting audio working?
I believe we're thankful that we can get our audio working. I can try it again and see what possibly can happen here.
Okay, well, it looks like your audio is connected to your video screen now, so that's at least progress. Let me try something on my end and see if that allows you to turn on your video. All right, we can see you and we should be able to hear you. Can you hear us? Mr. Phelan, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
Excellent. Okay, we've conquered technology. So thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Would you give us a short description of the crime that you were charged with, your sentence, and what you've done since, and why you're seeking a pardon today?
Okay, I have, the crime that I had committed was possession with attempted delivery. So with that being said, I had started smoking crack cocaine with the little money that I have. I didn't want to smoke up all my money, so I sold a few bags to make my money back, just to be able to smoke the crack for free. And I take full responsibility for my discipline that I have done that was completely wrong of myself, because I wasn't raised like that. And I would like to say that I take full responsibility of the unnecessary. And I want to be able to at least be able to remove this pardon off of my record, because it's hard for me to find a great job that I want to be able to have. So I want to be able to have the opportunity to have a better job opportunity so I can be able to support my family. I want to be able to drive semi-trucks across the country and to Canada so I can be able to work. Because of this felony I have on my record, I'm not allowed into Canada to drive to work. But with that being said, I would be missing out on extra earnings. So since the crime that I have committed, I done joined church. I'm a good representative of the neighborhood. My pastor, he took me up under his wings to show me a better way of life. And I'm glad that he took time out in his busy schedule to let me know there are better things in the life than just to do drugs and to let your family down. So I let my kids know that the things that I have done was very bad, and they're waiting to hear from the outcome of the unnecessary that I have done. But I told them the impossibles are possible. So I really do thank you for taking the time out to listen to what I have to say. And it was a pleasure to have this opportunity to stand in front of you guys and say the things that I have done.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan. I just have one question for you. It looks like there were a couple of temporary restraining orders around 2000 and 2005 granted against you. Can you tell me what was going on in your life at that time?
The restraining order, one was from a female that I was dealing with, a young lady that I was dealing with, a young lady that I was dealing with. It was a misunderstanding, but we had cleared it up ever since then. So, you know, we done made part with each other and became friends. And the other restraining order that was placed on me was a restraining order that I didn't have anything to do with, but they said that I was involved in something, but it happened in the house that I was staying in from the lady upstairs. And her and the young lady that I was dealing with had the problem, so she ended up putting a restraining order on both of us.
Okay, thank you. Other members of the board, questions? Judge Kremers.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Phelan.
How you
It
doing?
says, according to your application and the records, it looks like you picked up a possession of cocaine case in 2011. So, which would indicate to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you were still dealing with a cocaine addiction problem as late as 2011. Is that correct?
No, I'm not doing drugs anymore.
No, but in 2011, when you got that
Not-
charge, you still were?
Yeah, I take full responsibility of that. Yes, sir.
Okay, so for how long have you been sober and free of use of cocaine?
Since 2011, when that occurred.
What did you do to deal with your problem? How'd you stop using cocaine?
I joined church. I kept myself around positive people to enlighten me on how life is great and things like that, because I was going through a lot of things. So I joined church. I joined the community to help out, to serve food and things like that, to change my life around, to show my kids or whatever that I can do better.
Okay, thank you.
I maintain my job just as well.
Thank you.
Other questions? None? All right. Thank you, Mr. Phelan. Appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. As I mentioned, you don't have to stay on the Zoom. You're free to go about the rest of your day. And you should be hearing from us in the next month or two about the outcome of today's hearing. And thanks again for taking the time to talk with us.
I thank you for the time out that you took out of your valuable time to listen to me today.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. You have a great one.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right, we have another set of applicants, but we are not scheduled to start until 10 o'clock with those. And because we have noticed this is an open meeting, we are going to take a break until we are ready to pick back up at 10 o'clock when those applicants have been noticed for. Board members, if you want to stay on the Zoom, you're certainly welcome to just mute and turn off your camera. And if there's anything that you need from me or staff, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm going to turn off our live stream and step away.
What time do you want us back? What time do you want us back?
Thank you. Good question. Just how about like 9:58, slightly before 10 o'clock, so we can make sure that all our techs work in before we go live again. Thank you so much. All right, the board members making their way back. I'm gonna give everybody just another minute to get settled here.
Mel, I'm just going to take a quick second to let the board know that Chris Court gave us a follow-up email with an explanation for that YouTube video, further explaining that it wasn't him, that it was him filming and it was a friend of his. We made a PDF of that email and it's now in the Dropbox, so you can review it before or after closed session.
Thanks, Nick. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and let our Zoom participants in. And I'll just keep an eye on the clock so that we aren't starting applicants. Oh, it is time. Okay. All right, just letting everyone get connected to audio. All right. Welcome back, board members, Governor's Chief Legal Counsel, the rest of the Pardon Board on Zoom with me today. We are going to dive into applications shortly. Just a couple of housekeeping items. If you weren't with us at the beginning of the call this morning, when I call your name to present your application, I'll ask you to unmute and turn on your video. When you're not speaking, just ask that you mute yourself and turn off your video so that the board can focus on the applicant that we're speaking with, and we'll have the board keep their videos on the whole time. I will ask everyone to give a brief summary of the charges, their sentence, how things have gone for them since then and why they're seeking a pardon. And then the board may or may not have questions for you. Please don't read into it if folks have questions or not. We might have all the information we need from your application. But we will do that. Everyone will have about 5 to 10 minutes total. And I will call people in the order that we have them listed on the agenda. If we have any tech problems, we might come back to some folks as we get those sorted out. But staff in our office will reach out to you if you're having audio or video issues and make sure that we get the Zoom working. All right, so I see all of our board members have rejoined us, and we will go ahead and get started. First up is Ms. Ramona Benton. Do we have Ms. Benton in the Zoom? Okay, Ms. Benton, it looks like you're here, but we can't hear or see you. So if you're able to turn on your video and unmute, we can get started.
Okay, let's see. There.
There we go.
Hi.
Hi, Ms. Benton. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us today. Would you start by just walking us through the charges that you're seeking a pardon for, your sentence, what you have done since then, and why you're seeking a pardon today?
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Ramona Benton. I actually had to write some things down, and I'll explain moving forward. So I had to write it down. My name is Ramona Benton. I came from a middle-class family with a 2-parent household. My parents worked jobs, provided for me and my siblings. I was a victim of incest by family members. I was statutory rape from age 11 to 14 by people who I trusted in my community, church members, neighbors. Moving forward, I ended up getting harassment threats to the point where my mom thought it was okay to take me out of school. It was so bad. So I was dropped out of high school. My perpetrators, they were convicted. How this plays a role into moving forward during the time of the statutory rape that went on from 11 to 14. Towards the end, I was kidnapped. And during all of that time, I was forced to use drugs. So now we're going off into how this plays a role into my addiction to crack cocaine. Progressed throughout the years. Throughout my addiction, I did complete a GED, but on 1999, by that time, my addiction was out of control. And that's how I ended up trying to find drugs and ways of getting drugs. Was approached by an undercover officer. Didn't know I was an undercover officer at the time. And my addiction was just really bad. I went and got drugs for the undercover officer under the impression that it was just the actual drug user to possibly thinking that that person would share the drugs with me. I was charged with manufacturing with the attempt to deliver cocaine to an undercover officer in 1999. I was arrested. I did assist in that case. I went to prison. Then after I went to prison, I ended up getting out of prison and doing the same thing, like a dummy, but of course, that's how addiction does. I ended up in 2000 and I think it was 2000 or maybe 2003. I ended up doing the same thing all over again, seeking drugs, trying to attempt to get drugs. Charged on both cases, a party to a crime, which both cases I assisted. Can't go into too much detail with that because the stuff is on YouTube. But however the case may be moving forward, I got out of prison the second time, successfully completed probation. I ended up going to college, receiving a medical office specialist diploma back in, I can't too much remember what year that was. I believe that was around 2008, in which the time I was going to college, I also met my husband. We married, we met in 2008. I married him in 2010. November of 2019, he died from COVID. I worked a job all the way up until the point where 2014, I was diagnosed with SLE lupus. 2015, I was diagnosed with renal kidney disease. I am now stage 3. I also have COPD. I've had 2 strokes. I have a herniated disc in my back. A slew of health issues, which my health has been deteriorating. Throughout these years, I have an aide that comes into my home to assist me to stay in my home 7 days a week. Helps with clothing, bathing, necessary things that you need to stay in your home for daily functioning. I am truly regretful of my past mistakes. I am ashamed of the drug usage that I used throughout my younger years. I have remained clean and sober throughout the years since my last incarceration, which I am very proud of. I ended up, by me being clean and sober, I buried my mother. I was able to do that. I ended up buried my mother in 2015. I buried my brother. Last year, I was able to bury my husband in 2019. I have been able to establish a wonderful relationship with my children, my grandchildren. I have and been a model citizen in society. I still attend regular AA meetings when I can. I am a part of a lupus support group. Before all of this, like I said, I did work until my body just couldn't do anything else, but I'm asking for a pardon because I feel like I paid my debt to society. I have been a model citizen. I have not been around or be around people that do criminal activity. I have no intentions of committing any type of crimes whatsoever. I'm a law-abiding citizen. And also because this is a chapter of my life I would like to close, as well as this is on my bucket list. So with all that being said, I thank you all for listening. And again, I do apologize to the community. I have apologized to my family. I have forgiven myself. And I feel like all the triumphs that I have overcome throughout the years, I deserve a pardon.
Thank you, Ms. Benton. Questions from the board?
I have one.
Yes.
So, Miss Benton, when you said you were forced to do drugs, can you talk about that a little bit?
Like I said, from 11 to 14, I was being statutory raped by people I trusted in my community. A couple of people went to the church that I attended. Some were neighbors that lived on the, excuse me.
That's fine. It's okay.
They were neighbors that lived on the same block I was raised on. And when I mean forced, I mean physically abused to use them. And it went on for so long. So then I never end up telling anybody. Then when they kidnapped me, then I end up having to go to court and testify. They were convicted. But at that time, I was addicted to the crack cocaine.
Okay. Well, you truly have been traumatized throughout your life, and I hope for the best for you. Thank you.
I am so grateful for this opportunity here. Like I said, I have did a 360 turn. I have not looked back. I just want to close this chapter, and I don't want the label of me being a criminal on me anymore. I feel like I have paid more than my dues for things I have done. And I just thank you all. And that's all I can say. I thank you all for this opportunity. It's truly a blessing. Like I said, I've just been a model citizen, and I will continue to be a model citizen. And I really want this pardon to put this chapter and close it. It's part of my bucket list. My health has been deteriorating, and that's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and take care.
You too.
Thank you. Ms. Benton, you don't have to stay on the rest of the Zoom. You're free to go about your day. We'll follow up with you in the next month or two about the outcome of today's hearing. And thank you again for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you so much, and God bless you all.
Thank you. All right. Our next applicant is Jerry Golden. Is Mr. Golden in the Zoom?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Mr. Golden. Yes, can hear you
Okay.
and see you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Could you please walk us through the crime that you're seeking a pardon for, how that came about, your sentence, and what you've done since, and tell us a little bit about why you're seeking a pardon today.
Yes, ma'am. Well, my name is Jerry Golden. And I'm seeking a pardon because when this happened, I think it was late 70s, early 80s, I was young and dumb. And the way this came about, that somebody gave me some drugs to sell to the undercover cop. At the time, you know, I was just 18, 19 years old. And he said, if I would have did this for him, he would have given me $20. And so myself, $20 back in that day was a lot of money, just getting out of high school, you know, and I thought I was, you know, doing something for $20, but I did the wrong thing. Sold to an undercover cop, came to my house, they arrested me, went to court, had a trial, found me guilty, did 3 years probation, got off of that, you know, and then after that, you know, I was drinking, getting in a little trouble, you know, and stuff like that. Didn't never realize that all of this was gonna come down on me. And so I got a high school diploma, you know, and after that, in 93, I met a young lady named Bertha, and we got married. She had 4 kids when I met her. And we had one, my son Kyle. And we've been together for 30-something years. We just got divorced in 2016. And we got divorced, but we're still friends. I still love her. You know, and now I got 27 grandkids, 15 great grandkids. I worked at a nursing home for 15 years. In 2013, I got a job at Madison Metropolitan School District. And ever since then, I was diagnosed with COPD. I had possible lung cancer. And, you know, and I still went on with my life until I had to retire in August of 22. Because and I have been a model citizen ever since 2005, possibly earlier than that, 2003. And I have seen the ways to change my life around. I don't drink. I quit smoking, cigarettes, marijuana, all of it. And I just take care of my grandkids. I can't do nothing really. My buddies, I can't go hunting with my buddies because I got this on me. I got this felony. And my buddies would like, I ain't never been hunting. And they would like to take me hunting, but they won't take me because I got a felony. So I would like a pardon for this because I think I did my time. And I don't know how long I got on this earth. But I do believe that I have did my time, and I know the ways I did in my early years was wrong. But now I have seen the light. I love myself. I love my ex-wife, my grandkids, my great-grandkids. And I just need a partner so that if I do go, I know that I am a free man and I am a law-abiding citizen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Golden. You mentioned your experiences with drugs and alcohol, and you noted that you stopped drinking. In 1978, when you committed the crime that you're seeking a pardon for today, were you using drugs at that time?
Yes, ma'am. I was drinking and just smoking marijuana. You know, and that's all I was doing back in the, like kids do grow up in the ghetto. That was our recreation. Smoking, drinking, that's all we had. That's the way I grew up.
You mentioned that you stopped drinking later. Tell me a little bit about how that came about. Did you enter a program, or how did you manage to do that?
We took my son to the doctor one day, and we said the doctor told us that he might have skin cancer. And right then and there, when we left that doctor's office, I told my wife, I said, if the Lord spare my son without having skin cancer, I'm gonna quit drinking, I'm gonna quit smoking, and I'm gonna turn my life around. And back in, I think it was 2006, I ain't never touched another drop, never smoked, quit smoking. And that's all I've been doing is just focusing on my kids. And when I was working, just go to work, come back home, do a little fishing in the summertime. And that was it. I didn't do nothing else. That's because I promised the Lord that I would do this. And I never touch another drop. I don't smoke, because that's all I do now. But since I retired in August, I just take care, try to be with my family and my grandkids. And that's the only thing I care about. As long as my grandkids and my kids are healthy and good, that's all I care about. And taking care of myself as long as I can until the good Lord called me. And that's all I do. I don't do nothing else. And y'all should have some letters from people, from schools, my friends, that they'll tell you, I don't do nothing but take care of my grandkids, and I adopted 3 of my grandkids. So that I don't have time for nothing else but my grandkids. And they, as long as they're in my life, I'm a very, very strong man. And nothing will get me down as long as I have them. And I think I'm a good man. In fact, I know I'm a good man. I put everything behind me, and I'm trying to live my best life I can until the good Lord called me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colton. I appreciate that. Other members of the board, questions? Cindy?
Morning, Mr. Golden. Not really a question. I'm glad you brought up the letters.
Yes,
A
ma'am.
lot of impressive letters from your coworkers. I'm not sure if you miss the work, but I'm pretty sure they miss you.
Yes, yeah, I talk to them. They call me and tell me all the time, "Oh, Jerry, we miss you."
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not gonna lie. If I could work, I'd be there right now. But I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I cannot walk up them stairs, them hallways no more because it took a toll on me. So
Thank you. Thank you.
Other questions? No? All right. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, Mr. Golden. Really appreciate it. As I mentioned earlier, you don't have to stay on the Zoom. You're welcome to go about enjoying the rest of your day. We'll be in touch in the next month or two about the outcome of the hearing. And again, thank you for sharing your story with us today.
No, thank you for having me.
You take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, up next we have William Cleba. Mr. Cleba, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name.
Oh, it's fine, ma'am. You pronounced it correctly.
Oh, okay. Well, lucky day for me. Looks like your audio and video is working. So I'll just ask you to tell us a little bit about the crime that you're seeking a pardon for today, how that came about, the sentence that you served, what you've done since then, and why you're seeking a pardon today.
Okay. First, I'd like to thank the board for hearing me and taking my application. In September of 2004, I made a terrible decision to sell drugs. I got a phone call from an undercover officer and agreed to sell him Oxycontin pills. We met up. I sold him the pills and he took me into custody shortly after. I was arrested. I was sentenced to a 2-year state sentence with 2 years probation. I was not able to complete the probation. I ended up getting revocated on that and going to prison for about 18 months. During the time that I did serve in prison, I decided that, you know, I wanted to make my life better, try to make a change, and do the right thing. So I enrolled in school programs. I obtained my HSED. I got a grounds maintenance certificate. While incarcerated, I also, I'm sorry, I'm very, very nervous.
Take your time.
I obtained that grounds maintenance certificate. I also did a program for CGIP, the Cognitive Intervention Program. That program itself, I mean, despite, you know, everything that I did with the schooling and the certificates that I got, the CGIP was the thing that really stood out to me. It made me realize that my thought processes were very flawed. I needed to make a change. So I did. I successfully did that. I realized what I was doing was wrong. I knew what I was doing was wrong, and the lifestyle that I was trying to live was not the lifestyle that fit my profile and who I was as a person. With that being said, I eventually got out, completed the probation, all that stuff. I enrolled myself into college to try to become a psychologist, therapist. I didn't make it too far. I didn't get my associate's degree or anything like that, but I stayed the course for a while. I needed to be working and be able to maintain employment, and employment at the time was more important than finishing up school and being able to live. So I ended up not finishing that. I in choosing to take care of my family. So since then I was working. I've been working for quite some time. I've actually I hold a security position, a security officer position for the last 7 years. And I also work as a maintenance worker for another company, the same company that's contracted with the security company. I have became pretty a relied on person. I'm pretty relied on where I'm at, and the companies that I work for, St. Anne Center, is it's an intergenerational daycare, and we provide cares for adults with severe disabilities and children. About a year and a half ago, I had to go through a rehabilitation process with the Department of Children and Families to be able to keep my job here at St. Anne Center. I went through all the processes with that, and I was approved and granted rehabilitation and able to work in a child care setting. What I do here is I maintain the building to make sure everything is working right. The climate is good for our clients and our staff. And then the security portion of it is, I protect people. I make people feel, I attempt to make people feel safe. Why I seek a pardon, I was denied a security license through the Wisconsin Department of Safety and Professional Services due to my conviction. I want to advance my career in the security field and to make sure that I maintain good standing with the Department of Children and Families, but to also move my career forward with security and advance in that. Also, I want to set a good example for my children and set an example for others to show that rehabilitation is possible. The changing the way you think of things, the way you do things, the way you move around in life. There's you can choose the right way to go, and I want to show people that had struggles in the past that they can change, and it is possible for them, to change. And these are the rewards of that change. And again, I just want to say that I thank you for listening, and that's my story.
Thank you, Mr. Cleba. Board members, questions? Judge Kramers.
Good morning, sir. Mr. Cleba, can you tell me what led to your being revoked?
I revoked myself. I wasn't in a good space at the time, and I needed help. And the only thing that I thought would help me is being able to go through the processes and get slapped in the face with life and the realities of life. So I actually revoked myself.
Other questions? I had just one, Mr. Cleba, I see in your background information, there was a temporary restraining order granted against you in 1995. Could you tell me a little bit about what was going on in your life then?
I had a partner back then and we didn't get along, and I assaulted her, which I don't condone any violence whatsoever against anybody. Tempers, you know, we lost tempers with each other. We argued a lot, and we got into a fight, and the altercation ended up me being arrested. I went to jail for it, and she had a restraining order. I ended up violating that restraining order one time, and went back to jail and realized that this just wasn't, you know, it's not worth it. It wasn't right. I need to figure something else out. So.
Thank you. Other questions from the board? All right, thank you, Mr. Cleba. As you probably heard me say by now, you don't need to stay on the Zoom for the rest of the day. You're free to go back to work or go about your day. You'll hear from us in about a month or two about the result of today's hearing. And if you have any questions in the meantime, you can always be in touch with our office. Thank you again for taking the time to meet with us today.
Thank you too. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Next applicant is Calvin Herzog. Is Mr. Herzog with us in the Zoom?
Yes, hello.
Hello. All right, we can hear you. We cannot yet see you. Are you able to turn
Hold
your
on.
camera on?
It says start. I am trying. Did that work at all or no? Start.
No. Why don't you give it one more try?
Cannot start video failed. Stop video. Mute. It will not let me.
All right. Why don't we see if one of the staff from my office can help you get it started. Nick or Joe, would you please see if you can troubleshoot that for us a little? Otherwise, we can, we'll come back to you, and if necessary, we can do it with just the audio. At least we're able to hear you. So while we're working on getting Mr. Herzog some help with that, let's move on to our next applicant, which is Jason Reed. Mr. Reed, do we have you in the Zoom with us?
Yes.
There we go. All right. We can see and hear you. Mr. Reed, thank you for joining us today. Would you please give us some background, a brief summary of the charges that you're seeking a pardon for today, what happened, how serving your sentence went, what you've done since, and why you're seeking a pardon?
So in 97, I had a case where I was caught. I was actually caught with 0.2 grams of marijuana. I think that case ended with me just like going to the precinct, whatever. It was actually made me a felon, as far as I can remember. And I got a ticket wherever they sent me home. And then in 98, it was a situation in my neighborhood where I was involved, and I had been seen with the firearm. And
hello?
Hello?
We can hear you.
You still hear me?
I think there's just a little audio interference, but we can see and hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So the one in 98 is where I was in possession of a firearm. It was a situation that happened, and the firearm was located in my possession. And I think I was put on probation for that, and which brought me to my last charge was the drug charge in 99, where I had a undercover officer had made a buy for me. And when actually the end of that was, I think I had got revoked for the other charges, and I went to prison, and I think everything had ran concurrent. So I went to prison for that in 99, and that was my last conviction. And so since I've been out, I've been with my wife for 20 years. We've been married for 10. We'll be celebrating our 10th anniversary in April. We have raised 4 kids. 2 of them are adults. I have my adult son is working. He's doing good. He just blessed me with my granddaughter. So my other son had through all his life in sports, he's accomplished himself as far as getting a scholarship to the University of St. Paul Concordia in Minnesota. So he's done that. He's doing good. And my daughter's in the nursing program here in Wisconsin. Me and my wife purchased our first home in 2008 through the WIDA program here in Wisconsin. So we're almost halfway through that mortgage. I've been in the community. I've been at my job for the last 20 years, same job that I had 2 weeks after I actually got out of being incarcerated. I coached here in the Milwaukee area for 10 years. I started off being as a parent coordinator, and then I went to a parent help coach, and I ended up being a head coach, won 3 championships with the Pee Wees. These guys are 6 to 8 years old, so it's something I'm proud of. And me and my wife, we're avid voters. I mean, I've been in the community doing things. I still mentor kids. Everything I can do, and I was just the reason why I'm trying to just stay out and be positive, and everything I've done and those last few years reflect that.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. A question before I could get to the rest of our board members. One of your arrests in 1998 was in relation to a homicide charge. Could you tell us a little bit more about those circumstances?
So what happened was there was an altercation going around from about 3-block radius of our house. So it was a gentleman, 2 gentlemen actually, they were cousins. So one of the gentlemen actually lived in our neighborhood, and his cousin was just visiting. And so I guess his cousin was running around, shaking down like the younger guys, like going in their pockets, stuff like that. So we heard all the commotion because I think we were coming from the movies or something. So we came out and we went to our house where we did our place of business. So I had a firearm with me. And once we approached the commotion, we actually seen what was going on. So it was actually my friend. So we actually said, hey man, get your cousin out of here. We actually, everything was okay. So as they walked down the street, that's when the homicide happened from a different direction. And so they was like, well, I was spotted with the gun. So I actually, cooperated with the investigation. Officers found the gun that was in my possession. It wasn't fired. I wasn't, and I ended up being charged with felony possession of a firearm.
I see. Thank you. Other board members, questions? Looks like none. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Reed. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. You'll hear from us about the outcome of today's hearing in about a month or 2. So we thank you for your patience on that, and appreciate, again, you taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Herzog, do we have your video issue sorted out? Are you able to hear and see us?
Unmute. Hello.
Hello.
No, they don't have my here. Hold on. Does this work? I don't think so. Maybe.
Well,
Can't
we
see
can't.
me. He said that. Right. Right. He said that we'll just go forward because we tried everything I'm
Okay.
sorry. I'm really sorry. I
Oh,
don't know
no
how to use
problem.
computers.
Sometimes Zoom is just too much, and it happens to all of us. So let's go ahead and just hear from you by audio. Mr. Herzog, would you tell us about what happened and the crime that you're seeking a pardon for today, including telling us a little bit about the sentence and how things have gone for you since then, and what led you to seek a pardon today?
Okay. Calvin Herzog. In 2004, roughly, I got caught with possession of marijuana with intent to deliver. Got 45 days in jail and 3.5 years on probation, which I completed all my probation. Since then, around 2010, I met my wife. I didn't know it was gonna be my wife at that time. So yeah, we got married in 2011, had a kid in 2011. What I've done for the community, I actually built the community around here. So we started in around 2016, started working with Habitat for Humanity, building houses, built both of my neighbors' houses on the other side of me, my neighbor's house and my side of the house. So I actually have a house that we live in. Had steady employment, stopped hanging around with the wrong crowd, you know, been raising my daughter with my wife. 2017, started a really good career at Metalcraft in Mayville, which I still work at. It's been 6 years. Reason why I think I should be pardoned, it's really hard to tell my daughter that I made a mistake 19 years ago, and there's no way I can go on a field trip with her because of this. I mean, for 11 years, that's what I've been having to tell her year after year, and it's really hard. And she always wants to know what I got arrested for, or, you know, and I don't want to tell her. You know, I tell her I made a mistake. She's 11 years old. She don't need to hear what I did when I was 18. I don't want her to go down the same path.
Thank you, Mr. Herzog. Questions from my fellow board members? Cindy.
Morning, Mr. Herzog. Did you say you work at Metalcraft in Mayville?
Metalcraft of Mayville. It's in West Bend.
How long?
I've been there for 6 years.
So on your application, you list Ace Hardware?
I've been there for 2 years before Metalcraft of Mayville.
So you work both jobs? I'm just trying to
No,
understand.
I worked at Tenny's before Metalcraft of Mayville. I don't know. I'm thinking when I did my application, I was still working at Tenny's. And at that time, I did switch from Tenny's to Metalcraft. I've been working for Metalcraft for 6 years, though. So I don't know why Tenny's should be on there.
Well, yeah, I mean, you signed the application in January of 2022, and your
Right.
employer is listed as Ace Hardware.
Yeah, that's a mistake on my part. I don't know why.
Okay, okay. So in your application, there's sections for you to list community service and volunteer work and activities and any treatment or counseling or any other steps you've taken, and you left all those blank. And now today you tell us you've done some work for Habitat, et cetera. Why didn't you put this in your application?
Well, I didn't think that it was going to be, you know, a big part of trying to explain how I turned my life around. I mean, I guess it was just a page I missed. I'm sorry.
And then, letters of recommendation aren't required, but they're encouraged. And you submitted one undated letter from a former employer. So again, I'm just curious why you
Former
didn't.
employer, shouldn't that be Bob Trice?
Is it a current employer?
Huh?
Is it your
Bob
current?
Trice?
Okay, it's undated, so yeah, it is. So it's your current employer.
Right. I mean,
Okay.
that's my boss.
That's your
It's not-
boss.
Right,
Okay. Again, I had just seen the Ace Hardware, so I was a little
right. I'm
confused about that. It's
right.
all good.
I'm very sorry. I mean,
No,
I'm
no,
so nervous when
I
filling out this
appreciate.
paperwork. I mean, this is something that could change your life, you know? I mean,
And I just want to make sure that the board has the facts correct on where you
Right.
are now and what your employment is. And so it's good. You've been working at Metalcraft for 6 years. That's great. I just want to make sure we have the accurate information. I was a little confused by what you presented today and what was actually in your application, because we've had that paperwork to go through.
right. I mean, I don't know why I skipped the whole doing something for the community. I mean, Habitat is a big part of this community. There is 1, 2, 3, 4 houses on this block alone that I had part in building 2 of them,
Okay.
you know.
Yep. Just one more question, if I could, please.
Yep.
What would a pardon, you list in your application you want to hunt. What would a pardon mean for you? How would it change your life?
Well, my daughter does want to go through hunter safety, but that's not, I mean, it's big because I can't do it, you know. I mean, if I got a pardon, I would be able to. But like I said, going to field trips or, you know, trying to explain to the kid, hey, you know, I messed up. Like, I think, you know, I could tell her that even though sometimes people do mess up, there are second chances. You know, you don't have to sit there and be held back by something that you should have never been doing in the first place. I mean, you know, people make mistakes, but it would really mean a lot to me if I did get pardoned, because I could take her to hunter safety. I could show her how to do all that stuff if she wants to. And I could go on field trips with her. I mean, I can't even go on a field trip with my daughter for the last 11 years, even though I told the school board, hey, I've done this before I even knew I was going to have a family. I was 18. Now I'm 37 and my life has changed. Like I said, I've turned my whole life around.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Turner, you're up. Do you have questions?
Yes. So you had this charge in 2005,
Yeah.
and then you didn't learn your lesson, looks like, because in 2007, you're operating with controlled substance. You pleaded guilty, but you didn't disclose it in your application.
Yet
Correct?
again, that's, yeah, I did. I mean, 2007, right? I mean, drinking and driving, controlled substance in my blood.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Herzog. As you probably heard me tell other folks, you'll hear from us in about a month or two on the outcome of today's hearing. You don't have to stay on the Zoom. You're welcome to drop off and go about the rest of your day. And thank you again for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you.
Our next applicant is Tiffany Tyler. Ms. Tyler, I can see you. Are you able to hear us?
Yes.
Great. So we'll just ask you to give us a brief summary of the charges that you're seeking a pardon for, what happened, how your sentence went, what you've done since then, and your reasons for seeking a pardon today.
Okay, I had to write it down so I don't get emotional. I wanted to say hello to everyone in the Pardon Advisory and also the other applicants that might be watching. So my name is Tiffany Tyler. I'm a 40-year-old Montessori preschool teacher in Sheboygan. I'm here asking for a pardon on the charges of party to a crime, delivery of cocaine, and a forgery charge done relatively close together in the same bit of trauma. What brought me to that is the culture shock of moving to St. Cloud, Wisconsin, a village of populated by all white people, probably 475, I think, is their census. I moved there freshman year of high school after my mother had retired from the Army. It caused years of struggling with mental illness, identity problems. There was a suicide attempt. Me being biracial and growing up in the Army, it's a very diverse community. There's not one majority. It's very mixed. I couldn't acclimate to going to the school, which was New Holstein. I felt very ostracized and ignored. There were very traumatic experiences during that time, even through my efforts of fitting in. I left school, went back with the gung-ho attitude that I'm going to join all the activities and everything will get better. It didn't work. There was a suicide attempt, and eventually my mother allowed me to homeschool the rest of high school, which I did, but I feel like that left me without some of the social lessons for life that you learn in high school about who your friends should be and what people will do to you when they're just bad people. So through that, homeschooling, started working full-time at 16 already, but I was befriending all the wrong people. And I just surrounded myself with people who were not kind. And I found myself being used constantly. It continued into my 20s and ultimately put me in the wrong circle at 22 when the incidents happened that I was charged with. But after discovering my mistakes, I moved, I started college, I devoted myself to therapy and actually taking my medications that were prescribed, and I disassociated with people like that. And I was doing great, but 2 years later, I was called in and they decided to charge me with these 2 felonies. I had to leave school, work, my apartment, my boyfriend, my pets, everything. I served 3 months in Fond du Lac County Jail. And after that, I was let off of probation after serving 1.5 years of a 3-year sentence. Just on good behavior, I guess is what it's called. I've never had another charge. I've never had police contact since then. During that time, I really matured and I meditated on my mistakes. I successfully ended therapy, successfully ended taking medications for depression and anxiety. And I found an acceptance in myself and who I am as a biracial woman. And I moved on with my life, went back to attending school. I discovered I have a natural ability to work with little kids, real young children. I've worked in childcare and preschools now for these past 20 years. And I often, all the time, I have to advocate for myself constantly. I constantly have to work harder and prove myself better than others as a teacher because of my past. I earned my way into the early childhood program at LTC and completed my associate degree in early childhood development. I have numerous credentials and certificates. I have an administrative credential. I have a preschool teaching credential. I was one of 2 ladies selected to start the state's child care specialist apprenticeship. And that's run through the Wisconsin Department of Workforce. It was me and another woman, and they really looked to us to build the whole program, what needed to be included, what classes needed to be included, how people would work their way through the apprenticeship. So that was an honor. During all of my schooling in 2008, I got married and I had twin boys, David and Dakota. I suffered postpartum cardiomyopathy 2 days after they were born. So I almost died, and we spent the first week and a half in the hospital all together trying to get me healthy, but they were big and they were healthy. And I devoted myself to raising them. They both had special needs early on, requiring many therapies. And eventually I stayed home with them for a year so that we could just do all the therapies, physical, speech, occupational. They needed counseling and therapy for sensory processing disorder, anxiety. They did great, and I returned to teaching when they started kindergarten, and now they're 12 and they're in 6th grade, and they're fantastic. One is a theater kid and one is a sports kid. It was devastating though when they started school, because I was denied opportunities to attend things, even as a teacher, even being qualified, even being experienced. Because of my charges, there were certain schools they went to where the board or the principal decided that I wasn't fit to go on field trips or volunteer for special events in the classroom. So even with all these abilities that I worked myself into and advocated to get, there were still some that were so devastating that I couldn't do. But I kept working and finding other chances to be involved in their lives. And we made it through a tragic car accident. I developed thyroid cancer. I'm now cancer-free. There's special needs, both of them, and a divorce in 2020. They're my #1 priority and the best thing I've ever done. My ex-husband, Eric, and I are still really good friends after 12 years of marriage. We're totally involved in all aspects of their lives, and we co-parent very well. We actually even run a business together. We started a professional wrestling entertainment business called One Fall Entertainment. And we host a cancer benefit every October here, where we raise thousands of dollars. The first year was $9,000, and last year, October, it was $13,000. And it's for the Pink Heels organization, which is a cancer benefit for people in the area. I'm entering my 20th year of steady employment teaching soon. And I plan on getting my Montessori degree now that the boys can stay home by themselves. I returned to Montessori Children's House recently, and I'm setting up a classroom specifically for 2 to 3-year-olds during that potty training stage. I worked here for 7 years previously when my twins were little, and we stayed till they were 3 when I had to stay home for their special needs for a year. But I'm excited to be back and getting this part in. It would completely change my life. I could volunteer. I can apply my skills in the community organizations. I can become more of a public figure in Black community outreach and in the entertainment company where we raise money for cancer, which is very important to me. I could do it all without the constant advocating, the constant explaining my situation, without the fear of stigma, the fear of rejection. I can become more involved in the school, the boys' school life, their sports, their activities, without fearing the board or other parents may talk about us or treat my kids differently than the others. I could talk to my boys about the mistakes that I've made and show them how a person, because I'm talking about my kids, so of course that happens. Talk about how a person can overcome the obstacles in life. And I would go back to school, get a higher degree. And this would allow me to either work for the school district, because that was their only reason for not hiring me, was my charges. And they asked if I could get them taken down to a misdemeanor or get a pardon. They said, then we definitely hire you. So I could work in the school district. Of course, that would mean making more money for my family. Or it would allow me to get the licenses from the Department of Children and Families to fulfill my dream of owning my own Montessori childcare and preschool. So I just wanted to say I'd like to thank the board for allowing me this opportunity. I feel like I've been working for this moment for half my life now. So I'm just very appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Tyler. I appreciate that. Questions from fellow board members? Judge Kremers.
You talked a lot about your life since, and what you've been dealing with and all of that, and your children, and that's terrific. I'm just wondering why you were, if you could speak a little bit about why you committed these crimes back when you did the forgery and the selling drugs.
Yep. So I never actually sold drugs. I occasionally would take people to where they would sell drugs, or they would say, can you take this to this person? And I just had people that liked me, had people that wanted me around, asked me to do things for them, with them, and I just did it. I don't even know what would possess me or why I didn't think that it mattered what I was doing for people. The forgeries, I really remember. There was a family, the Parks, and it was a mom and a dad, and they had 4 kids. And one day the mom comes and she says, my aunt gave me this check to get our stuff off of layaway. So I was like, okay, why wouldn't I believe her? So she asked me and the dad's sister to go to Walmart, take the check, pay for their layaway, come back. So I did it. And I was the one that handed the check to the cashier. So on Walmart camera, I'm guessing it's me handing the check to the cashier. And that was how I got charged with it. The other instance was at Pick and Save, I believe. She gave me a check. She said, my aunt told me to get groceries. Her brother's sister came along. We picked up the groceries at the cashier. I gave the cashier the check, and that was me also. That family, I felt for them. They had 3 tiny children, no vehicle. So I took them around all the time and did favors for them, because here I was, the one person in the group that had a job, had money, had a car. There's no explanation other than I was stupid. I was naive. I found people that, took me in, and I just did whatever anybody needed all the time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions from board members? Okay, Ms. Heller, I don't have any questions for you. So thank you very much for taking the time to be here with us today and talk with us. You'll hear from us in about a month or 2 about the outcome of today's hearing. You don't need to hang out on the Zoom. You're free to go about the rest of your day. And thanks again for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you. Okay, our next applicant is Michael Schulmanski. Mr. Schulmanski, I think, yep, I do see you. Can you hear us all right?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So if you could tell us a little bit about the crime that you're seeking a pardon for today, your charges, your sentence, and what you've done since then, and why you're seeking a pardon.
Okay. So originally in 2007, I was charged with robbery with use of force as a party to a crime. I took a plea deal with that. What happened was I was hanging around with somebody who got into an altercation with somebody else, and I was along with while they handled their altercation. I ended up taking a plea deal for the charge of theft of movable property from person, and then 2 Class A misdemeanor batteries as a party to a crime. During the sentencing, the judge, she gave me an opportunity. I believe the district attorney at the time, I believe they wanted 5 years in prison. But the judge gave me an opportunity, and she sentenced me to probation, and I was able to go home that day. At that time, I was heavily addicted to drugs. And I was totally not the person that I am today. And I believe I lasted maybe a year on probation before I was caught with possession of cocaine, which revocated my probation. And the judge had told me when she first originally sentenced me that she said that if she ever saw me in her courtroom, she would send me to prison if she ever saw me again. And so, of course, I got caught with the possession of cocaine, and I was revocated, and she sent me to prison for 3 years. During my incarceration, I was put on the waiting list for the 12-month AODA program that was held at Kettle Moraine Correctional. I went there and I did the 12-month program. Once I completed that, then I was transferred to a minimum facility for the last 10 months of my sentence, I believe. It was a work release. And so I did that. And then I was released in, I believe it was 2010, November 2010, I was released from prison. Since then, I've worked a couple jobs. But I started into construction, I believe 2015 maybe. And I worked for a guy for 3 years, and I went out in 2018 and I started my own business, which I've ran and still operate to this day. I do home remodeling, bathroom remodeling. I have, since my sentence, I've had no criminal activity whatsoever. I believe I've gotten a couple speeding tickets, but nothing major. I have 2 children. I have 2 daughters and a fiance. I've been with her since 2011, I believe. I'm seeking a pardon because it's the first step. I'm going to eventually be seeking expungement. All this crime and everything happened. I was 17 years old. And since then, since running and having my own business, it's really hard to, I'm going into people's homes and I'm remodeling their homes. And I've had a lot of instances where I've met people and then never heard from people. And I believe a lot of it is due to my charges. You know, people see that, they don't care about the circumstances. They don't care about when it was or anything like that. They see something like that and I'm an instant, I get, pushed away. People don't want to deal with me. So that's the main reason. I've done a 180 with my life since then. I was 17 years old when all this went down, and I'm ready for it to be done. I don't know. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Schulmanski. I just wanted to make sure I'm clear about your current employer. Looking through your application, I saw Ron's Tree Service. It sounds like you're doing home remodeling.
Yeah, Ron's Tree Service. My current employer is myself. I started my own business in 2018. Ron's Tree Service, I worked for him for, I don't know, a year or two maybe. That was a while ago.
Got it. Okay. And then just one other question about your probation. You mentioned being revoked. Were you revoked just once?
Yes. Yeah. So for the original crime, I took a plea deal, a plea bargain, I believe. And then when the judge initially sentenced me, she initially sentenced me to 3 years probation. And then within that first year, I caught a possession charge, a misdemeanor possession charge. And so my probation was then revocated. and she sent me to prison, which she was, the recommendation from the district attorney on the first plea deal, she gave me a break. They wanted me to go to prison for 5 years, I believe, but she didn't do that. So she sent me the second time when I got revocated.
Okay. Do other board members have questions? Noble, I saw your hand first.
Yes, Mr. Schulmanski, good morning. I'm going back to the probation revocation. Just point for clarification. You mentioned you were revoked a year after being convicted. Is that, did I understand?
Yeah,
that
I believe it was about a year. Yes.
And when was the last time? What was the last date that you were revoked? Do you recall? You remember?
January 16th of 2008.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Judge Kremer.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Morning.
Go back to talk about the crime. What exactly was your role in this offense?
So there was an altercation between two gentlemen, and I knew the one guy, Patrick. They decided to meet and duke out their altercation, and I was brought along just in case Patrick started losing. I was supposed to jump in and help, but what ended up happening was Patrick ended up beating the crap out of Lawrence, and I grabbed Patrick off of him, and then we left. I was just there, really. I wasn't involved in the altercation whatsoever.
So you understand the criminal complaint that you apparently pled guilty to says that two things. One is that the victim says both of the people there were hitting him, including you, and Patrick, your friend, says that you were the one that hit the victim with the baseball bat. So were both of those people wrong in that criminal complaint?
Well, Patrick is going to say, I believe he said that I was the one that did it because he was, that's what, he didn't want to get in trouble for it. I don't know why Lawrence would have said that both of us were the ones involved, but I wasn't. I was there, and I took I took the money, but I wasn't part of the physical altercation whatsoever.
I see. All right. Thank you.
Cindy?
Yeah, I just want to follow up on Judge Kremer's questions because I found it really interesting the way you described the crime as you were along while the other person handled their altercation. Did you know the victim?
Yeah, he was the older brother I was friends with his older brother, or his younger brother, Chad.
I mean, he was hit in the head from behind with an aluminum baseball bat. He had a broken hand, loose teeth. I didn't hear anything from you today about the victim and what he's gone through. So
I can only imagine what he went through. I was under the influence of drugs at the time, and what I saw happen to him at the time, I couldn't even tell you what I was thinking. Again, I was 17 years old. Looking back at it now, I can only imagine what he went through at that time. I don't even know. It's not something like that it should never happen. I mean, I don't even know what to say. I really don't.
The other thing that caught my eye was, you talk about just being a bystander, but you disguised your face. You put a bandana on so they wouldn't recognize you. I mean, that shows to me a level of calculation and planning. And
so that the reason for that was because I was friends with his younger brother, and I didn't want to be seen there, I guess, is what I might have been thinking at the time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? All right. That is all our questions. Thank you, Mr. Schulmanski, for joining us today and speaking with us. As I told our other applicants, you can expect to hear from us in about a month and a half a month to 2 months about the outcome of today's hearing. If you have any questions in the meantime, you're of course always welcome to contact our office. And you do not need to stay on the Zoom for the rest of the day. You're free to go about your business, and thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, that is all of the applicants that we have slated for this 10 to 11:30 session. Our next order of business will be moving into closed session to discuss this morning's applicants. So the board will be moving into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 19.851A, D, and F for purposes of deliberations concerning cases before the board, for the purposes of considering specific applications, and for the purposes of considering financial, medical, and social and personal histories of specific persons. Do I have a motion to move into closed session?
So move.
Judge Kremers moves. Is there a second?
Second. Second.
Excellent. Thank you. Seconds from Noble Ray and at least one other person. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, we will move into closed session, and I will move our remaining folks into the waiting room and stop the live stream at this time. Good afternoon, everybody. We're just gonna give everybody a minute to get connected and make sure that the live stream is working before we get started. All right. Looks like we have most folks in and connected to audio. Good afternoon. This is an open meeting of the Pardon Advisory Board of Governor Evers. My name is Mel Barnes. I'm Chief Legal Counsel to the Governor. I'm going to introduce the rest of our Pardon Board in just a second here, but I'm going to go through some housekeeping stuff first, which is, as a reminder, this is an open meeting that is being live streamed on Wisconsin Eye and YouTube. Applicants will ask you to mute your audio and turn your video off until it's your turn to be heard by the board. That's just so that we can hear the folks who are speaking and can focus on the applicant that is before the board. Board members will ask you to keep your video on the whole time. If anyone runs into IT issues, don't worry, it happens. Staff from the governor's office is on the line and will reach out to you if you're having issues with your audio or camera. And we will just come back to you if it's not working when it is your turn on the agenda. So we will generally call people on the order listed on the open meetings notice, again, unless we run into IT issues. We have just one session this afternoon, so we will hear from folks listed there. Once we call your name, if you're an applicant, we will just ask you to provide a brief summary of your offense and how your sentence went, a little bit about what you've done since the completion of your sentence, and talk to us about why you're seeking a pardon today. The board may or may not have questions for you. Don't read too much into it one way or another. Sometimes we have all the information that we need from what you share today and your applications, but otherwise we'll just ask you to share a little bit more information. Once you are done speaking with the board, you're welcome to sign off. You don't have to stay on the Zoom and you can go about your day. Once everyone has spoken with the board, we will go into a closed session and discuss the applications. You will need a majority of board members present voting in support of your application for your application to be forwarded to the governor, who will decide whether or not to grant a pardon. You'll hear from us either way in the next month or two. If the governor does grant you a pardon, you'll receive that in the mail. If your application is denied, you'll get notice of that in the mail, as well as information telling you that you're eligible to apply for a pardon again 18 months after that denial. So we will go in the order listed on the agenda. Before I start with our applicants, I'm going to briefly introduce my fellow board members that are with us today. We have Anthony Cooper, who is the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships and Reentry Services for Nehemiah Center for Urban Leadership Development. We received a pardon from Governor Evers in 2021. We have Judge Jeffrey Kremers, who is a retired judge and served on the Milwaukee County Circuit Court for 26 years. We have Reverend John McVicker, who is the founding pastor at Christ the King Baptist Church in Milwaukee and serves as board chairman for King's Academy Christian School. We have Cindy O'Donnell, who served as deputy secretary at the Department of Corrections under several governors and served as a division administrator under multiple attorneys general. We have Nadia Perez-Reyes, who is the Assistant Secretary for the Department of Children and Families. She is also a former public defender and attorney for Legal Action of Wisconsin. We have Myrna Warrington, who is the Director of Vocational and Rehabilitation on the Menominee Indian Reservation. She is a U.S. Army vet and has been a member of the Menominee Tribal Legislature for 11 years. And finally, we have Noble Ray, who served with the Madison Police Department for almost 28 years, including as Chief of Police from 2004 to 2013, and also led the U.S. Justice Department's Policing Practices and Accountability Initiative. And I'm looking at Zoom. Myrna is not joining us for the afternoon session. I'm sorry, I neglected to mention that. So she's not joining us, but the rest of the board members that I listed are here. So with that, we'll dive into hearing from our first applicant. First on the agenda is Julian Brown. Mr. Brown, do we have you in the Zoom?
Yes.
Oh, there we go. iPhone, excellent.
I was having a problem turning my camera on.
Great, well, we can see and hear you now. So Mr. Brown, will you just share with us a bit about your offense that you're seeking a pardon for, the circumstances of that, your sentence, and what you've done since, and tell us a little bit about why you're seeking a pardon.
Okay, I have two cases I'm seeking a pardon of. One is fraud, and one was drug possession. It happened about, I want to say like 10 years ago, or probably like 8, 9 years ago. The first case was my fraud case. I had just lost my job, and I had a baby on the way, and somebody came to me with an opportunity to make some money, and I was young and dumb, and I took the opportunity, and not thinking of the consequences, and I end up getting in trouble for it, and because I didn't have no record or no bad background, they end up giving me probation, and I end up, both cases end up getting run concurrent. So I end up doing like 2.5 years on probation for both of my cases. And my drug case, I was on my way to see my lawyer for the first case and picked up somebody I shouldn't have been around, and because they was giving me some money because I had a fine to pay, so they was borrowing me some money, and I knew I shouldn't have been around them, and took the money to go pay for it, and I did because I ain't had the money at the time. So we ended up getting pulled over, and it was stuff in the car, and because I was the driver, I took the ownership of it, and I was at the wrong place at the wrong time, and I ended up getting 2 years probation because I ain't had no background on both cases. And I recently just trying to get my life in order because I know I did wrong back then, and I'm just trying to turn my life around and show my kids that out of any dark hallway, it's still light at the end of the tunnel. And I recently got engaged, so I'm just trying to turn my life around for my family and be blessed with a second chance.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Questions from the board? Judge Cremers?
Good afternoon, Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, according to your application and the court records, you were ordered to pay $13,800 in restitution. Did you pay that restitution?
Well, it ended up getting knocked down some because of my plea, and I ended up paying everything off.
What did it get knocked down to?
I wanted to say like 4,200 or 4,800 around there, and I ended up paying everything off.
And how'd you pay that off?
Well, I was working, and my sister helped me because I told her that I needed help. It was only she gave me the last $1,200 or probably $1,500 to pay the rest off because I told her that I'm trying to get a party. And then, I've been paying her back off working. So she had gave me the remaining balance of the bill.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? All right, hearing no other questions. Mr. Brown, thank you very much for coming and speaking with us today. We will discuss your application later in closed session. You'll hear from us either way in about a month or two. And you do not have to hang out on the Zoom. You're free to go about the rest of your day. And thanks again for taking the time to speak with us.
Okay, thank you. Y'all have a good day.
You too. All right, our next applicant is Mr. Robert Hune. Mr. Hune, I might be getting your name wrong, but do we have you on the Zoom? Yes.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Would you tell me how to say your last name correctly?
Yes, it's Hini. It's
Hini?
pronounced Hini.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And if you would just start by giving us a summary of what happened, the charges that you were convicted of, how serving your sentence went, and what you've done since then, and finally, why you're seeking a pardon today.
Okay. All right. Well, this all happened back in like 1990 when I was around 19 years old or so. I was drinking way too much back at that time. I went to a party one evening, and it was getting pretty late. I want to say maybe 3 a.m, something like that. We ran out of alcohol type thing. So myself and another friend who was also at the party ended up going to a tavern. We broke into a bar. We stole some beer, took some cigarettes, alcohol. And the very next day I was arrested, and we were put on bond for that. And I got in more trouble on bond. That's why there's another charge on there that says bail jumping. It was all along the same lines. I was at a party drinking way too much. Back in them days, I was drinking vodka and any kind of hard liquor, pretty much you get your hands on. And I was at a party, and one minute I'm playing a card game and drinking real heavily, and pretty much the next minute I woke up, I was in the hospital, and I never had no real recollection of it. But I found out the next day that I got myself in a whole bunch of trouble. I had left the trailer that I was in and apparently walked into the wrong trailer. And the owner of that trailer called the police on me. I fell outside, and I guess I passed out on the ground till the police got there. And they arrested me, took me to jail, and I was very intoxicated, called them many names, ended up getting several charges of like disorderly conduct, and I believe it was like a trespassing for entering that trailer, and I'm not sure what else, but everything I did that night basically was another felony because I was on bond for the burglary to the bar. So I ended up getting out of the hospital. I spent the next 3 months in jail. And then I ended up, once I got through court for all of this stuff, they released me with time served. Then I got 3 years of probation. And I got in trouble one more time on probation. I foolishly got myself drunk driving, and my probation officer threatened to send me to prison for the rest of my sentence and revoke my probation. Or she gave me a choice. She said I could go to an alcohol rehab center. So I chose the alcohol rehab center, and I went there for 30 days. That's when I started to finally realize that if I did not do something and stop drinking like this, I was going to be in prison, and all over foolishness too. So that's really what made a change there in my life. I stopped drinking hard liquor. I got through my sentence. I paid restitution to the bar. After that, I haven't been in any trouble in 3 decades now, but I worked at Land's End in Dodgeville for close to 25 years. I ran my own business for about 4 years after that. And currently I've been working at Sub-Zero in Madison for the last 4 years. And the reason I'm seeking a pardon is after all these years, I would getting closer to retirement age. I would like to consider maybe a part-time job, possibly delivering mail or even working at the university in Platteville, things I cannot do with a felony on my record. So that's basically why I applied. And like I said, I've been in no trouble since. Things I've done in the community. I've been an active member of snowmobile clubs for like 25 years, working and establishing trails, maintaining them. I have installed some security systems for some friends of mine that own businesses, and I have worked several times with police turning over video for burglaries and thefts at their businesses. So I have tried to give back in that way. And I guess other than that, that's pretty much my story.
Thanks, Mr. Hini. Questions from the board? Cindy?
Good afternoon, sir. Do you still drink?
I drink a little beer, but I haven't touched hard liquor in like 3 decades. I've learned to just have a couple beers socially, and that's it. I never did stop altogether, but I stopped getting hammered and drinking hard alcohol.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? None? All right. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Hini, and speaking with us today. As I mentioned, you can expect to hear from us in the next month or two, and no need to hang out on the Zoom. You're welcome to go enjoy the rest of your day. And thanks again for speaking with us.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Next up is Trevor Draht. Mr. Draht, do we have you on the Zoom?
Yes, can you hear me?
We do, yes, perfect. So Mr. Draht, if you can just walk us through your charges, how your sentence went, anything that you have done since then, and why you're seeking a pardon today.
All right, so when I was 17 years old, I broke into a storage building and I stole a snowmobile. I got caught with it shortly, just a little bit before I turned 18, and I got 2 years of probation, which I did not make it through. I ended up getting in some trouble on probation. I got a random drug test that I failed, and then I absconded because I didn't go see her. Then I got revoked and I ended up sitting 6 months. Paid all my restitution. And well, that was it for that part of it. What was it? Then after my sentence, I've been working at 3 different places. I worked for my uncle for a couple years, and then I worked for Veolia Environmental Services for 8.5 years. And I've been employed with Ostringa Excavating for almost 10 years now. The reason I'm looking for a pardon is because a lot of the job sites that I'm supposed to go on to, because I'm the mechanic, I need to be able to get clearance to get in. Like I got denied to get into the Kewanee nuclear plant job that we were working at. And I was supposed to go there and fix the machine, so I couldn't get in. So they had to pull the machine out for me to work on it. Guess that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Mr. Draht. Questions from the board? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Draht. Like I said, you can expect to hear from us in the next month or two, and you do not need to hang out on the Zoom. You're free to enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for coming and speaking with us.
All right, thank you for taking your time.
Next up, Wendy Smith. Is Ms. Smith in the Zoom? Ms. Smith, if you are able to unmute yourself and turn your video on, we are ready to hear from you. Ms. Smith, are you able to hear us?
Yes.
Oh, there we go. All right.
There, how's that?
Great. We can see and hear you now.
Okay, new at this.
The technology is always the most fun part.
Yes.
Ms. Smith, thank you for joining us. If you are able to just give us a brief summary of the charges that you were convicted of, the sentence that you served and how that went, what you've done since, and your reasons for seeking a pardon today.
Okay, I have 2. One was back in 1990. I was young and dumb. I just had a child. I was a single parent. And my friend, or my daughter's father's brother's friend, told me about welfare and stuff, which I never knew anything about, and my mom didn't know anything about. So she helped me get on it and stuff, and then it was all going good. And then I was going to school to be nursing, going to get my RN and stuff, and I failed to report within 10 days of that I was working and living on my own and stuff. I just failed to report it because I just slipped my mind. So that's the first one. The second one is identity fraud case. It happened in 2006. I was in a bad time. I mean, I got my life together until this happened again. I got married. I had a kid, had another kid. Things were going well, and then my mom died, which was my best friend. My husband was cheating on me. I was going through a divorce, found out my husband was cheating on me with someone the same age as my daughter at the time. Then during the divorce, I had to fight for my son that he was trying to take away from me. So, and I was taking care of these elderly people, and she was giving me money because she felt bad for me, and that's where it escalated into me taking money instead of saying no to it. And I take full responsibility of that. I should have never did it, never, but my brain was not in the right time frame. But since then, since all this has happened, I've moved back to take care of my elderly father now. I ran a hotel, worked in a hotel. I've changed my life around. I've been at the job I'm at currently now since 2008. I've taught myself how to do QuickBooks. I've taught myself how to do taxes. I've taught myself how to do a lot of stuff. I've grown, I've learned from my mistakes. I just don't want this to define my life anymore, because I'm trying to get a notary license, which I can't, a real estate license. I just got my father qualified for the VA for elder care, and I can't be the prime person because of this. So I got rejected. So now my brother has to be the prime POA person. So that's that's my story. I'm just trying to better my life and change it, which I have. I just want to move forward and do more stuff. This is holding me back.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Questions from the board? Judge Kremers.
Yeah, good afternoon, Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith, I'm struck in a positive way this afternoon by your acceptance of responsibility with respect to the identity theft, as you call it, case where you stole money from this elderly couple. What I'm hearing this afternoon is that you knew what you're doing was wrong. You took money from them when you shouldn't. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because in your application, which you probably filled out a year or more ago, you kind of denied responsibility for those offenses and basically said you had permission to write the checks. So what changed between when you wrote the application and your acceptance of responsibility here today?
Why? She gave me permission to write the checks to help her pay for bills. I just did the wrong thing and wrote other checks out. And yes. I'm just taking responsibility. I mean, I probably should have put that in there because I did feel bad. I do feel bad. I mean, these people have now passed. I did go see them before they did pass, and we made amends.
Okay. So you're not denying that you took money from them that you weren't supposed to take and paid for personal items kind of thing?
No.
Nice. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Cindy.
Good afternoon, Ms. Smith. In the application, it's not required, but it's encouraged that applicants submit some letters of support for their application, and you didn't submit any letters. Can you tell us why not?
I don't know. I guess, I don't know. I mean, I could have went and got some, I guess, but I just didn't think of that, I guess. I don't know. Nerves, nerves, being ashamed, being embarrassed.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Ms. Smith. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. As I think you've probably heard me tell everybody now, you don't have to hang out on the Zoom. You're free to go about the rest of your day, and you can expect to hear from us in about a month or two about the status of your application.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have Mr. Chad Leibfried. Mr. Leibfried, are you on the Zoom with us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm having trouble with the video.
Okay, let me see. I'm gonna see if I can send you a little prompt to start your video. Oh, there we go. We can see you now.
Yeah.
Perfect. Mr. Leibfried, will you walk us through, give us a little summary of the offenses that you're convicted of, the how your sentence went, what you've done since then, and why you're seeking a pardon today?
Yes. Hello, my name is Chad Leibfried. Thank you for allowing time for me today. I am 50 years old, I have 4 children, and our first grandchild on the way. 30 years ago in 1992, I just turned 19 years old, and I made the worst decision of my life. That decision was to participate in burglary of a building and a vehicle and to take property that did not belong to me. I committed the crimes of party to burglary of a building or dwelling, party to entry in a vehicle, locked vehicle, and party to theft of movable property. I was convicted on September 20th, 1993, and was sentenced to 3 years of probation. I successfully completed my probation on May 24th, 1995, which was over a year early. Since my arrest and conviction, I have strived to be a better person. I served 8 years in the U.S. Army Reserves and devoted my time to becoming the honest, respectable person I should have always been. I also started and built my own construction company, building homes, buildings, and other structures. As I am physically no longer able to complete the demands of construction, I moved out west to accept the position as a parts and safety manager for a mining contractor. A few years ago, that company fell on hard times, and I was one of several employees which were laid off. At that time, I had great difficulty securing work, both due to my physical limitations as well as disclosing my felony conviction. Due to this, my wife and I made a choice to sell our home, most of our belongings, including our vehicles, to purchase and operate our small fishing resort. We were very fortunate to find our dream opportunity and move back to Wisconsin. I frequently donate my time to community events and fundraisers when possible. Some examples of this are snow plowing, community events, donating items as prizes for various community fundraisers, and donating cabin stays at our small resort to various benefits and fundraising auctions. I've supported the Lancaster Police Department canine golfing outing, and our auction donations have raised over $10,000 in 2022 alone for various cancer benefits. Receiving a pardon would be such a joy for me. I feel I should receive a pardon as I embraced my poor choice that night and made the conscious decision to turn my life around. I choose to be the man I should have been and to set an example for my family and myself could be proud of. Every day since, I wake up and choose to make better choices, to think about the possible ramifications of the decisions, not only for myself, but for my children and my family. Every day I live with the regret of my choice that night, and I pray for forgiveness from God. I take pride in the fact that I have become an example for my children and future grandchildren. In receiving a pardon, I would have more possibilities to contribute to my family's income. Due to my health, I can no longer do a lot of physical work. I do hold a Wisconsin guide license and hope to utilize this to help supplement my family's income by guiding for fishing and snap turtles. If I were to receive a pardon, I would also be able to guide for waterfowl hunting as well. This would provide more income for the slower off-season months for the small resort we own and operate. Lastly, being granted a pardon would allow me to help heal the actions I engaged in that night, healing for myself and healing for my family as well. Thank you again for taking the time to consider my case. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Leibfried. Questions from the board? None? Okay. No questions for me. So thank you so much for joining us. As you've probably heard me tell everyone else now, you can expect to hear from us in about a month or two, and no need to hang out on the Zoom. You're free to go enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. And the last applicant we'll be hearing from today is Mr. Guadalupe Valdez, who I know I saw on the Zoom. Here you are. Mr. Valdez, would you walk us through, oh, sorry, I think you need to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, perfect. Mr. Valdez, would you walk us through your convictions, your how your sentence went, what you've done since, and your reasons for seeking a pardon today?
Yes. Hi, I'm gonna read it off.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Guadalupe Valdez. Jr. I'm 44 years old. I earned my felonies on October 13, 2002 for possession with intent to deliver cocaine. I was sentenced to 9 years imprisonment, 4 years of parole. After 3 years of imprisonment, I was given the opportunity to go to the Challenge Incarceration Program, which was boot camp. I earned my freedom back. And the time I didn't serve in prison, it turned into like parole. So I did a total of 11 years on parole. I did earn a drunk driving back in November of 2011. I was given a 90-day sanction at the House of Correction, which was an eye-opener. And I did participate and complete the drunk driving classes because I have a tow business, so I need my license. I haven't drank since then. I need my license for my job. It's important. I did complete the 11 years and 3 months of parole without going back to prison. While on 11 years of parole, I got married. It's been 16 years. We bought a house. Within 3 years of my release, I gained full custody of my oldest daughter back in 2009. I started a tow and junk business, I just said. It's been operating legitimately, paying taxes. You know, my probation officer made sure I did all that. I still do. I paid to get some of my old like gang affiliated tattoos off because it wasn't good in business. It didn't look good when I, pulled up to people. My kids don't even know I'm a felon. They never even know that I went to prison or anything. So, they've been in private school their whole life in Whitefish Bay. I always stood out from all the parents. I stood out because of my tattoo. So I started getting them removed because I didn't like that. I didn't like that they looked at me different, especially in a good neighborhood. I'm not the same person, when I committed those crimes. And through my business, over the years, I've been able to do like sponsorships. I contribute to the community. I given away plenty of free cars. I also own a dealership. I own multiple businesses now. And, I do donate to local events all the time, festivals. And since I own a little scrapyard, I give out free windows, lights, and mirrors, to the community because I'm proud of that because, it like built a relationship where I work at, everything, like it built up to me, it was good. Why I'm asking for a pardon is because, besides my kids not knowing me, a lot of people look up to me. And since I have so many I have different experience in different fields in business, people call me, ask me for stuff. And, they don't know I'm a felon. None of them know I'm a felon because none of us, they don't talk about it. So, I wanted for business so I could gain more licensing. Like when I go and apply for certain things I can't do, I can't get a daycare. Even though I own a big building, I can't get a daycare. I can't do certain businesses just because of my felony. So I want to, get rid of them.
Thanks, Mr. Valdez. I just had a question for you about a charge from 1997, so a bit earlier than.
When I was younger. Yep. Which one?
Could you tell me a little about this criminal trespass to dwelling and this substantial battery charge?
I had, I was 18, I think, 17, 18. Going through my first real breakup with my baby mama. So I went through my kid's mom back then, and I had gone over there and she had a new boyfriend. So I went in there and I beat up the new boyfriend. So yeah, of course they called the cops because she lived with her grandma. So they called, I went in without permission, and battery was because I beat up the boyfriend. That was it. I got, I got revocated. I remember. Yeah, they gave me, I think like 6 months in or something, and the 18 months of probation. I got out, but I got revocated for, I think it was like I can't remember. It was a long time ago. I don't even, I don't remember some of these things because I don't think like that no more.
And could you tell me a little bit about your relationship with the woman involved now?
With the what?
The mother of your children.
Oh, we're like best friends. I got grandkids now. I got 4 grandkids. She lives in Virginia, and we keep in contact because our daughter lives. That's why I said I got full custody of her. She lives over here, so we're always going back and no matter what, I'm always going to be in contact with, because, we got a daughter, she goes through her little things, and, or, the grandkids, there's 4 grandkids. So yeah, we're great friends now. She tells me, that I changed. Of course, I changed. I'm not that guy no more. I don't even remember that guy. I can't, like, when they were asking me on the application, some of the questions, like, why did you come here? I was like, man, I don't remember that guy. I don't even think like that. So my mind is always on business. Kids, it's so different now, but we have a great relationship at the end.
Thank you. Other questions from the board? Cindy?
Yes. You may have heard me ask a previous applicant, but you did not submit any letters of support with your application.
I know I didn't. I just, like I said, like I was like ashamed of asking, and everybody comes to me because since I learned everything with nobody teaching me nothing, and I'm like real educated, like in my line of work, everybody calls me and look up to me, and like, I don't know, I just, everybody looks up to me. I didn't want to be like, hey, bro, can you give me a recommendation? I didn't want to do that. I was embarrassed. That's why I want it off. I want to be free of this.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Just one follow-up. So, it looks like crimes, misdemeanor battery in 97, carrying a concealed weapon in 98, 2000, the fleet. I'm sorry?
No, no, go ahead.
2000, like, was it prison? Was it boot camp? What flipped?
Oh, no, I went to prison. No, I went to prison.
I understand. What flipped the switch for you to get out of this life of crime? What changed for you?
The second time when I went to, because I've been to prison in 2004 selling drugs, then I got out. I got revocated in 2002 when I got my new charge. I got my new charge, which was the one I just told you in October. When I went to prison the second time, they gave me 9 years, so I had to go to max status. I had to work from my way from max to minimum, medium to minimum, so I could go to boot camp. But when I got to Green Bay prison, I was there for a year. I came across people I haven't seen since I was like 15, and they were like, how much time you got? And I was like, 9 years. They would tell me, oh, I got 800 plus 64. I'm thinking, man, like, holy crap, like, they still talking about when I get out, and I'm thinking, man, like, bro, I don't think you're ever getting out. You know what I mean? So it was an eye opener being in there, because like I ran into, like I said, like people from school, from like middle school at an older age, and like, bro, remember summer of 1995 or something? Like, yeah, I remember, like that was the last summer I was out. I'm like, holy, like, it was an eye opener. Like, it was an eye opener. Like, I never had it's a lot of, I seen a lot of people with a lot of time, and it was just something I didn't want no more. I'm glad I went to Green Bay. I always say this to people because, I had to work my way down, but I was happy that I went there because it was an eye opener. Just running across people from teenagehood or whatever, and them telling me like, yeah, I got 600 years, or I got 87 years. I'm like, holy crap, like. 9 years was killing me. I was dying to go to boot camp. I wanted to go to boot camp. I wanted to get home, but I'm glad they sent me there, and it took my time, because I feel like if I would have gone straight from Dodge to boot camp and been out in 9 months, I would have not learned my lesson. I feel like I had time to think. Like I said, I ran into people there, made me think. Like, my cell, he had been locked up for 37 years since the 70s. I'm like, holy crap, like that was just blowing my mind. Like, in medium prisons, you don't hear people like that. Oh, I got 5 years, I got 3 years. They go home. These dudes had years, and they like slowed me down. Like, holy crap.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Other questions from the board? Nadia?
Cindy stole my question, Mr. Valdez, but I do want to ask, or to just make a comment to you. I know that you told us that you don't like to tell people, I think, about your story, right? But your story is what got you to be, right? Like the Guadalupe Valdez Jr., right? Like that you are today, like in terms of like asking folks for letters. I just wanted to say, if you don't already, mentor kids and, or young people in the community, I think your story, your experience, leading people to know like, hey, don't do this, right? Like if you can try to do it this way, it could be super
I do,
valuable.
like my PO wanted me to do like motivational classes and or talk to them, but I was like always embarrassed. And right now, one of my business partners, he actually works with you guys, the state or the government. He just got granted access to go to prisons for like entrepreneurs classes with like people that were felons. And he wants me to be part of it. But I'm like, bro, I can't even go to prison because I'm a felon, but he wants me to be, because it's like, bro, you've done so much. Because I also got a trucking business with him, with the guy that works for the state. I got we own a trucking business, so he wants me to go to them now. Like I can't, I'm a felon still. So like, he got his felonies removed. That's how I got the, all these years it never crossed my mind to get in my felony room, because I don't be thinking like that. And when he got his, it motivated me to get mine. Now I'm seeing like, man, I could get my license for this stuff. I could get my, different things. I started opening my eyes, but it was kind of, I was just, working. Do what I got to do every day.
Thank you. Other questions? Great. Thank you, Mr. Valdez. Really appreciate your time speaking with us today. I think you've heard me tell everyone this now, but you can expect to hear from us in a month or two. If you have any questions in the meantime, don't hesitate to reach out to the office. And thank you very much for taking the time to come speak with us today.
Okay. Yep,
Take care.
Have a good day. Yep. Bye.
All right, and we have two other applicants on the agenda who we will not be hearing from today, but we will discuss in closed session, Shannon Jefferson and Latoya Jones. They originally appeared before the board at the October 14th, 2022 session. So now that we have heard from our applicants, we will move into closed session. So the board will be moving into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85 1A, D, and F for the purposes of deliberations concerning cases before the board, for the purposes of considering specific applications, and for the purposes of considering financial, medical, social, and personal histories of specific people. Is there a motion to move into closed session?
So moved.
Nadia has moved.
I'll second it.
And a second.
I'll second it. Yeah.
Anyone opposed? Great. Hearing none, we will move into closed session, and I will turn off our light.